Kyper and Bourne on Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
Show number 102 on the Real Kyper and Bourne Show, but show number 3 on our Sportsnet YouTube channel. So that means for the third day in a row, we will not be showing Sammy McKee.
It's a shame. He's dressed up to go to the Leafs game. We should almost get him to walk in front of the camera here just to do a cameo. Sam, next time you go up for a little like pee break or something, pop in, stare at the camera.
No. We're hiding him.
Oh, yeah? Like the mystery producer?
Yeah, we got to throw something out. Like we want something like 500 likes on our YouTube channel before we show Sammy.
I like that idea.
And Derek. Let's not forget Derek Brandeo, our wonderful tech guy. Wilson. See, I went deep into an mid-80s sitcom when I mentioned is it Cliff Clavin's wife? No, it was Norm. Norm's wife.
I'm
Vera.
no help here, but I do remember Wilson from Home Improvement. Yeah.
So late 90s?
Yeah, it sounds right. And 1,000 likes and Sam will step in front of the camera shirtless, he said.
Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne with you in the next few hours. Also on board later on in the show, Aaron Ward, former NHLer. Always fun part of our segment. And Brad May to help us tee up the Buffalo Sabres and what we can expect out of the Buffalo Sabres. And I'm like, this one could get ugly.
You realize our guest list is primarily goalies and tough guys?
I like it. I'm okay with that.
We got a lot of heavies that just pop by. Makes me feel like, insignificant because I am.
Well, and maybe a bit of a theme here, JB, in terms of what we kind of started yesterday. If we're in the scope of team toughness and what it means during the regular season and what it could mean in the playoffs for a team like Toronto. While we all like the bottom line for Sammy and his Leaf Nation, that the Leafs found a way to get past a physical Washington Capitals and taking some runs from Wilson and Hathaway. The conversation comes up throughout the league, not just around the Leafs in Washington, and we saw that last night with the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Ottawa Senators.
Yeah, watching that game was it was fascinating because we did have that conversation yesterday about how the Leafs aren't on the right side of that physical stuff, but they're able to weather the storm. And can they do it over a 7-game series? So watching that Ottawa-Tampa game, Formenton takes a little bit of a run at one of the D-men, throws out an elbow or a leg, depending on how you look at it. Tampa starts to chase him around. Ottawa goes up 2-0 in that game, but the Formenton attempted hit kind of pisses some people off. And Tampa starts chasing after him. All of a sudden, it's Perry and Tkachuk, and it's Formenton is being chased around the ice. And all of a sudden, before you know it, he tries to hit Chernak. Cirelli comes in and fights him. There was a half dozen fights. Tampa had 10 power plays in the game. Tampa ends up winning 5-2, for coming to one another's aid more or less. And what got started, the emotional element they got from that. And John Cooper talked about that in the post game. Should we go ahead and listen to that?
I'd love to hear John Cooper and his thoughts.
Back down from anybody. With the injuries he's had this year, do you kind of tell him maybe that don't fight or don't,
No, you can't take that fight out of the dog. It's what makes him great. And these guys are competitors, and especially if there's any liberties being taken with teammates, it's a pretty natural instinct, especially for our group, to have each other's backs. And so you never take that away from a player.
Just that having each other's backs has been a big part of what you guys built the last couple of years. It's a physical game no matter what you do, but it seems like
yeah, it's I don't think you can win without having that. And guys that are there's a difference between guys that can talk about it and say they're going to do it, but then there's guys that actually go out and do it. And we've got a bunch of guys that actually are proactive in that department.
Who's the reporter that said, is that what you guys have done the last couple of years? Is that what you built the last? They've won 2 Stanley Cups, pal.
Talk about it.
Connect the dots.
Okay, I don't know. I thought it was a good follow-up. No?
Of course it is.
He got him what we wanted him to say, so let's say. That's what we wanted him to say that.
100%.
And he did his job. So, I feel like Kyper maybe, because Cooper, I feel like you maybe texted him and told him to say that to fit a narrative.
I did not.
Without having that.
I did not.
Because he could not have addressed it at a better time for what we were talking about literally yesterday. He said what we were talking about, and can you win without it, and how much does it matter? And the coach of the back-to-back defending Stanley Cup champions went to the media and said,
randomly
I
said,
don't think you can win without having that.
said that.
And we're not the only ones here, because as we've started out on chats on YouTube, there's a lot of people that feel the same way. As much as you like the Leafs win against the Washington Capitals, there's some that are still, if not upset, incredibly concerned that there was zero reaction with Morgan Riley getting run and your captain getting run in that particular moment.
Right.
Of course, we gave Wayne Simmons some credit for getting in on his next shift and the domino effect of the 4-on-4 that led to the winning goal. But in that instance, and what we saw yesterday when it came to Cirelli coming into the aid of the defenseman Chernak.
Yeah.
Chernak's a big boy.
oh yeah,
And he can take care of himself, but he's coming off a couple of injuries, including a head
he
hit.
took a head hit the game before.
He did, but he's also got a bad shoulder as well. And there was no hesitation out of Anthony Cirelli to
He
go
saw
in
it
there.
was Formanton. He was like, all right.
Guys, the score is 5-2. It's over. How easy would it have been
To skate away.
for a head coach or teammates to go, JB, let it go. It's 5-2. Let it go. Why didn't Anthony Cirelli let it go?
I think you know the reason. Making a point, right? This is not, you can't just take shots at our guys, take liberties at our guys and get through the game unscathed without having an answer to someone. Cirelli's 6 feet tall and 190 pounds. He's not an enforcer, not a beast. Maybe fights, once or twice a year.
Hey,
But-
he's a gamer.
He's a gamer. He's a big time gamer. That's a good word for him. So yeah, so here's my issue with this. So, when I was with the Marlies and watching people write and talk about the Leafs, there's a lot of people who have things to say like this. And you can't win like this and you can't be like that. And it's left to the team to go, okay, well, tangibly, what does that mean? What does it mean for the Toronto Maple Leafs that they're not, we don't think that's what we're saying, that they don't have what Tampa has physically. They don't have guys that naturally are inclined to be physical, right? So what does that mean? What can they do to be better at that? Just turn the roster over? Or is it something that they have to overcome in other
or
ways?
Ask them to do it. Is there an ask? Before you decide whether or not they can or can't do it, has there been an ask?
Try to do it. So I'm like, my
Has
son
Sheldon-
with food. Have you tried the
Has
broccoli?
Sheldon asked them that the next time that happens, hey, our penalty kill's okay?
Hey, Willie, go punch someone in the face the next time they.
Maybe that's a good penalty for us. The one that causes a scrum after you've run our number one defenseman.
If William Nylander ever sucker punches someone in the face, you could mint it as an NFT and sell it for $1 million tomorrow.
He would be the absolute last guy on that roster I would go to ask.
Wouldn't you
to
love
do
to see
that.
it, though? Wouldn't it delight you? We would do a whole show on just that.
Can you pick another guy on that roster that you would ask Willie
Pierre.
Nylander
No.
before
Pierre.
anyone else?
Yeah, maybe Liljegren.
How about the
Pierre.
6'5"
Not a chance.
manimal?
But I listen, if I'm the coach, I don't even really talk to Willie. Like I just, I just do your Willie things.
Shoot it in
and
the net.
shoot it in the
28
net.
times.
And then when you kind of start scuffling again, maybe we'll sit you down for a few shifts and then just go back out there and
The-
do it.
This
I don't
sounds
talk
like
to him a
bad
whole lot.
coaching.
The only thing I'm wondering with the Toronto Maple Leafs is that an internal discussion at all? Like, I would at least hope that there would be some sort of ask from someone. And then if someone goes, no, that's just not me. That's just not my style.
listen.
And I just don't want to go in there. I don't want to go into a scrum. I don't want to say anything to the guy. I'd just rather play hockey. And if that's the case, then go and try to win on the power play or outscoring your mistakes or having great goaltending and take your chances to win that way. But
Right.
what Cooper said is what basically Billy Guerin said and I know Minnie's having some issues right now,
Yeah.
but he'd like to think that there's different looks to winning over the course of a regular season and, of course, to try to win a Stanley Cup.
There's a very good expression that's something like, I'm going to be like Tommy Boy here and mess it up, but it's, you'd rather tame a tiger than paint stripes on a pussycat. You know,
Okay.
you'd rather have guys that are prone to go too far aggressive like Marchand and, you know, whatever else the other guy you think is like that, and say, hey, can we get you to bring it back 1%, rather than take guys who just don't want to do it and ask them to be something they're not. I don't know that you help these guys, but here's the thing. Could you accept it, Kyper, and say, it's not who we are. We're not the team that's going to go punch those guys in the face. Can we just build it around, work around this? Can we outscore this? Can we power play this? Can it be done?
That's what's happening. It is happening.
In the regular season, they're going to be in first place if they win tonight, and they should, right, Sammy? Is it first in the division?
If they win tonight, they will be tied with Tampa and ahead of the Cats for the first time probably this season.
They're doing okay.
They are a very good regular season team,
I was waiting for it. I set you up a little for that.
right?
Alley-oop.
Teams,
Now,
teammates, you know?
is Sammy's Leaf Nation now beyond that? Do they really care?
I don't know.
Speaking for myself and
Yeah.
speaking for a lot of friends I talk to.
Yeah.
I'm really trying to separate what I'm watching right now from the looming playoff stuff. I really am, because I know, and listen, I talk about the Leafs every day. I talk about you guys all the time, but it is an enjoyable team to watch at the moment. It really is.
I
when they play,
disagree. They're entertaining.
and when they play against teams that, you know, for example, tonight they're playing against the dog crap Buffalo Sabres, who they will probably score multiple goals on, and it's going to be fun to watch. But I think there are these sort of there's these tentpole reminder moments when they go up against a team that's heavier. For example, against Washington, where they got pushed around. You go up against a team against like Minnesota, or where they fared well against them. But there's these teams that play the heavier games, and you're kind of reminded, saying like, okay, so this is still a thing. This is still something that you think about. And I don't think it's necessarily, like, I really do think that this year is a little different than years past. I think that the bottom six, I think that third line has a chance to be a difference maker for them in the playoffs. But the whole thing that looms over it is what John Cooper is talking about. And if they have that in them, the killer instinct, it all comes back to the same conversations we've been having since last playoffs. No matter what, it always comes back to that.
Chris Manos in our chat says, I think it's either in you or it isn't to be tough. You can't fake it.
I agree that you can't fake it.
You can fake it.
But you can. Well, there are guys that.
No,
you can, Kyper. Yes, you can.
You guys, you can. For the guys on the ice, they're called bluffers.
Oh, yeah.
And they are exposed right away. Therefore, you cannot fake it.
I think there are guys who are
to the guys that matter.
So scared of getting that reputation that they will go do it just to not get the reputation. That are still scared out there, that still don't want to do it, that know they have to.
So Sheldon, ask the guys then.
So ask. Well, ask. But here's the thing with this team is, you know, people are like, they need to bring in this guy or that guy. The four guys who play 20 minutes a night has shown a couple moments where he'll be like, hey, stop.
He looks frustrated.
Austin Matthews, we have like a couple images of him being like ragdolled and laughing in the playoffs, which I don't hate him doing that. I don't want him punching people anyway. And then Mitch Marner.
Led the team in hits on
the other
night.
I hated that.
So the Matthews is the only guy there where you're like,
Matthews,
he's the only one where he might be able to do something about it.
Unacceptable for me. Unacceptable.
I mean, if he wins a Hart Trophy this year, does he still need to punch people in the face?
Well, again, to Sam's point, we got a big win tonight against Buffalo. Leaf fans are feeling great. Now we're talking about a Hart Trophy for Austin Matthews, Rookie of the Year for Bunting, and then going to the playoffs, losing the first round. And how does everybody feel about that?
I know. I just keep coming back to, so what does it tangibly mean? And what are they supposed to do? And I guess you look at the to me, the only thing you can do is trade really William Nylander if you think it's a big problem and you want someone who's tougher in that position, because you can't trade Mitch Marner. He's like the best player in the world right now. And Austin Matthews is actually the best player in the world. John Tavares is unmovable, so it's only Willie.
You have two of the best players in the world.
You do. Two of the you do. Facts. And then so then trading Willie's an option. some tougher guys in your third line. Say, sorry, Pierre, we want you, but tougher.
You watched Tampa Bay last night, and early in the game, it's a 36-year-old Corey Perry pulling off Brady Tkachuk.
Looking to the future there for Brady.
Really
Not a bad future.
Yeah.
a good trade-off here. And we watched we watched Tkachuk.
Oh, my God.
Forgot about that.
Yeah, me too.
Corey Perry, this guy that we thought was washed up 2 years ago, has played as many playoff games as Wayne Simmons has in his career. It's incredible. Watching Corey Perry, who also has 15 goals.
I was going to say, do you know how many goals he has this year?
Yeah, 15.
15 in 50 games.
Didn't he want to play for the Leafs?
Yeah, for like $1 million.
So, and we give Jason, they're squeezing every last drop out of Jason Spezza.
He's given him,
Right?
Yes.
And
You can't say anything bad about Spezza.
No, you
It's
can't.
It's
illegal.
illegal.
It's
now.
illegal.
It's an actual
No, it's
jail.
not illegal.
Yeah, you're gonna.
No,
No,
it's not.
you go into this
It's
corner
not.
of the studio for
And-
2 minutes.
and it even
SWAT
gets-
team's gonna kick in the door.
It
pal.
even gets better for Jason Spezza because he's got an awesome commercial right now. I don't
Does
know
he?
if you've seen it.
Sonnet one.
Yes.
It's very good with
It
the
is
legs.
really good with the legs.
It's very good. Yes.
And he does a great job on it. But let me ask you this. You're ready to start the first round of the playoffs. Your Toronto Maple Leafs semi. And you've got one choice.
Mm-hmm.
Jason Spezza in the lineup?
Yep.
Or Corey Perry in the lineup?
It's not close, Sammy.
I mean, this is
Perry.
you're putting me in a terrible spot.
Yeah, I love it.
I know. I can't. Listen. I can't stand Corey Perry. I've never been able to. London Knight. Can't stand him. Hated him since he was a 16-year-old. But yeah, it's Corey Perry.
Sorry to do that to you.
But he's not the one, Kyper. Like, he's willing to get in faces. He's the one who's been willing to throw the gloves
Yeah.
and throw the knee
But
and
it's-
score.
it's not
But he's
him.
not the guy where I'm like,
It's
no,
not him.
I know it's not, but
him.
he'll do it. He'll do it. You can't say the same for Engvall.
Wayne Simmons, Corey Perry,
Like, Mikheyev's not going to do it.
Mikheyev.
Camp isn't going to do it. I don't want Kasha near any flying objects.
And yes, he did beg the Toronto Maple Leafs to sign him on a couple of occasions.
Who, Spezza?
No, Perry.
Yeah.
Was it before he signed with Montreal and before he signed with Tampa?
Yeah.
Oh, why?
How much?
Oh, it wasn't about the money. It was not.
Well, then
about
what?
the
Then
money.
what? Like, oh, I guess
Coming
they just
home,
think he's washed
he
up.
wanted to come home so badly.
Jesus, Kyper.
I thought you were going to say Jesus doofus.
No,
Damn it,
you're
Dubas.
breaking my heart over here.
Like we said, it's the percentages. Kyle Dubas made some good decisions.
No doubt.
And there's others that you kind of, hey, listen.
He has
Corey
15
Perry's
goals.
I know.
15 goals.
Well, I mean, you can't. He won the heart. He knows how to score.
So-
Well, now he's on a very good team.
But when
too.
we're
It's a good
talking
spot for
about
him.
a couple of guys that can go in the room and it's not John Cooper sending that message. Like we just talked about, Sheldon needs to have the ask. But it's Corey Perry and it's Maroon. Who's in that room, that Leaf room right now to
It's
get
Simmons.
that
Simmons
message.
is the only one. Simmons is the guy.
like a guy that's won a cup.
I'm just talking about
Like the
boys.
physicality.
it's
This is the time to rise up.
We've got to
need to
step
answer.
up. We got to look after each other. We cannot have Hathaway running Morgan Riley.
So
we
this
can't.
is-
That's a separated shoulder. He's done. It's over.
This is when people get on me for the Liljegren thing that I'm so hard on him. But like this, if we're going to have a depth guy, a 6th, 7th guy who's in and out of the lineup, can it at least be someone who can offer an element like this that you so clearly lack? No, they tried to add it with Foligno last year and it didn't work. Doesn't mean it was a bad idea. It didn't work out in practice because of
He's
the
just
injuries.
bet on the wrong horse,
They
unfortunately.
bet on the wrong horse. That's exactly it. Well, anyway, so that's what should happen with the depth. Full building tonight, by the way, tonight.
Yeah, you guys want some awful Sabres stats to say how bad they are?
Let's have it.
They've lost 5 straight road games against the Leafs. Haven't won against the Leafs since March 26, 2018 at home at Scotiabank Arena. This game features the best and worst face-off teams in the NHL this season. So the Leafs are the best, I think, at 56, and the Sabres, I think, are around 43. So they lose a
Start
lot.
with the puck.
Yep.
Nice.
The Sabres have allowed 4 more goals in 5 straight games, boys. Their 3.59 goals against per game is 29th in the NHL. And Craig Anderson gets the start tonight for the Sabres. He's allowed 12 career goals to Austin Matthews, including 4 in his debut. That's tied for the most goals against by a single skater in his career.
Wow.
So...
And as a result, the Leafs are minus 417 if you want to bet on them to win.
God.
You got to bet $10 to win $4.17.
This is
Marner's 400th game tonight, by the way, boys.
We've talked about this. This is a pushover game. There's a lot of pushover games. I like the Washington. I like St. Louis. Those are interesting games to me. This one will put you right back into something that could look like Game 7 of an 8-game exhibition season.
And actually, there's a real potential for a problem. What if Mrazek goes in tonight and kicks out 30 in an SO or something like that?
That is not a problem. That's a great thing. Then you start him again.
You want him to be your starting goalie come playoffs?
I don't need to say what I've been saying.
I know.
Whoever saves goes in.
I think it's too early for that. If we were in March, mid-March, going in towards, 3-4 weeks left in the season, I would buy into that. Right now, I think you've got a lot of stock, emotional investment in Jack Campbell, and I think you got to find a way to get him back in Saturday night. Dare I say it? I don't care about Buffalo, and I don't care if Mrazek pitches a shutout. I don't care.
Some statement to Mrazek, by the way. Sign him for 3 years, 3.8. If he comes in, wins 2 in a row, and gets a shutout tonight, and you're like, nah, you're still not the guy.
Here's what Keefe said about Mrazek today. He's earned it. There's no secret that Jack has stumbled as of late, and we've been talking about getting Peter some more time in the net. We think the timing for everything has just made it just really makes sense.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
There you go.
Just gives him more time. Curtis Joseph, I thought, was outstanding. If some of our listeners didn't catch yesterday's show, download it. He spoke of the goaltending situation, and that what's so great about Curtis is when he's on our show, it's almost as if he's talking to Jack himself. You know what I mean?
Right. What do you say? It takes 100 shots to get your confidence back and 1 to lose it. Depressing. A life metaphor, I think, too.
See, the key is to quit after 99 shots.
That's right. Just walk out. Yeah. For Jack, though, I mean, I get it. I still think he's the guy who, the 918 save percentage career guy, just having a bit of a tough patch. I got to believe if you're sitting home at night watching that dollar slip away, hypothetical dollars that you could have had, or what your contract might have been, I really think that would affect me. Like, then okay, go back in there and don't worry about that money you're watching just slide through like sands through the hourglass. Ugh. Tough spot,
and one that has everybody revisiting all of their positions.
Is this even the guy we want to be the goalie?
Toronto asking that. Like,
you know what his save percentage was in playoffs last year? 932. 934, 936. One of the three. Very high.
But only everybody remembers the Gallagher goal.
Which, wasn't awesome.
In Game 7.
Wasn't awesome.
All right, let's bring in a guy that I think knows the Buffalo Sabres rather well. Bradley Mayday. Mayday. Are they going to be
what's going on?
Hey, is Buffalo going to be screaming Mayday by the third period when Austin and Matthews and Bunting have like 15 points?
Oh my gosh, guys, it's tragic, isn't it?
It is tragic. Like how
listen,
bad is it?
Well, it's not good. I can tell you that. I know. Listen, I when they're down, I don't want to kick them, but they've been a subpar team for way too long. They do have some good talent, but I'll tell you what, it takes time to develop it, and if you don't have the quality veteran players that these young guys, certainly the elite group of young guys, that they can emulate and learn from, marinate with their veterans. You just don't see bad teams becoming good overnight. It takes a lot of time.
And one of the guys that had high expectations was Rasmus Dahlin, and not having watched the Sabres a ton this season, is he coming around to live up to that number 1 overall draft slot?
Listen, he's a heck of a talent, but again, there is, and again, I'm just, we're talking Buffalo here, but you look at all the bad teams in the league over the last 10, 15 years. It's not very many of them have come out of it on the other side, and it's because they don't have the ability. Look at Phoenix, look at Edmonton. Edmonton's better, but they still struggle because they have holes. But a guy like Dahlin, he's elite. He should be one of the best players, certainly growing into one in the National Hockey League, a defenseman. But who are the guys he's been playing with? And not to mention, I'll just give you an example. And Kyper, you can speak of this as well. I played in, with a number of teams. Detroit being my last team I played for. Anybody that played for the stretch that Nicholas Lidstrom was there, they were all better for it. Not to mention forwards and everyone else. When I was in Anaheim with Pronger and Niedermeyer, and then you look at when Anaheim and you went through Murderers Row out in California, with San Jose, LA, and Anaheim. They had Cam Fowler, Josh Manson, but this was all because Fowler lived with Niedermeyer. They learn these things, and it happens organically, coupled with their talent. But if you're not surrounded with the right guys and the right talent and leaders, guys that can teach you not only what you have to do in certain situations on the ice, but just how to live as a pro, it's awfully difficult to become an elite player unless you're with elite players.
You make an excellent point. And, the name that jumps out to me when I think about what you're just talking about is Ekman Larson in Arizona or Phoenix, all those years where people said that this guy could win a Norris. And all he did in 8 or 9 years is just be complacent and accept losing. And you watch him now in Vancouver, and he still should be an elite defenseman, and he is according to his salary. But the days of thinking of him as being a defenseman that can control the game or win a Norris, I think have long passed. That could happen to Dahlin, as Brad just mentioned.
Yeah, look how good Sergachev got playing alongside, the great D in Tampa Bay, like a young prospect coming a long way. So should Buffalo be bringing in some guys, some older players to sort of mentor these guys? Would that make sense?
Well, 100%.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is that older player, he, in so many ways, he's maybe not as valuable, salary-wise. So he has, that player has options. He has an option to go to, not to say winning organizations, but there's a lot of competition out there. Unless you overpay for one of those guys, which, by the way, the sad part about that is when you're going out and adding older veteran players, they're probably not going to give you what they once did as a player. And that's the conundrum these teams find themselves in. Just talking about Sergachev for a moment. Listen, they went to the Stanley Cup Finals, the Montreal Canadiens, and fantastic. That was amazing last year. What a run. But you traded Sergachev for Jonathan Drouin. It makes zero sense. By the way, Jonathan Drouin would be twice the player if he was still in Tampa learning with, and if he had the ability to, suck it up and play with Kucherov and Point and Stamkos, he would have been twice the player. And then you look at Sergachev, where he was, everybody projected him to be a good player. But now he's down there with Hedman and McDonough and the rest of that group. Anton Strawman was there for a little while. These guys, they learn from each other. And the young guy that's got talent, he's got a huge upside and obviously the growth potential. But there's too many players, unfortunately, that are in not necessarily the perfect situation for themselves. And they are good players. They arguably are worth what they're being paid, but they're not ever going to hit their ceiling that they might have.
Let me ask you about the ripple effect of Jack Eichel and the trade with Vegas. Alex Tuck's come in and actually, produced almost, a point a game. And he seems happy, and there's a local element to Alex being in Buffalo. But everybody's moved off of that, and is it been accepted, or is there some bitterness still looking at the lineup and seeing the losing?
Well, listen, the losing's never easy. The tough part in Buffalo, their captain a couple years ago spoke just of that and was railed out of town because he was honest and he was the hardest working player on their team. And I'm speaking of Ryan O'Reilly. Mm-hmm. And what did Ryan O'Reilly do? He went on to become the captain of the St. Louis Blues, won the Conn Smythe, won a Stanley Cup, and is still a leader and an elite player in the league. So I think I'm a big fan of Alex Tuch. When I was in Vegas working for the Golden Knights, he's just a fantastic young man. His childhood team was the Buffalo Sabres back in the day when he was growing up. So he is in a great position to, advance his career and become the leader that he has those qualities. And I think he's been given that space and that room to be that guy. For Jack Eichel, if he finds his game and he's healthy, and of course those are ifs, there's not a chance in the world you could tell me that Buffalo wins that trade ever. Jack Eichel's an elite player, is going to be absolutely elite if he is healthy and can get back to that level. And I guess that's the question mark, and that's why the trade was probably done and it was accepted. But Jack Eichel, I was front and center watching him grow as a player when I was in Buffalo. And outside of his body language, playing for a losing team, which, by the way, that they are warts for sure. If he can grow up and become the man that I hope he can be, Jack Eichel is going to be in the conversation for the Hart, in the future. He's one of the best players in the game. And to win in this league, you just look at the winners. You have to have the best to beat the best. And so I see that as, a good trade for Buffalo because they did get some young talent, but it's all about a culture in Buffalo that they have to build as opposed to winning championships immediately.
When you talk about like culture and intangible stuff like mentoring and learning from players and all these sort of things that are not necessarily raw skills, we were talking before you came on about the Toronto Maple Leafs and how they're not a physical team and it's not their natural inclination to be. Do you think it's possible for a team like the Leafs to, for the lack of a better word here, pretend? Would it be better for them to at least put it on, at least get in the guy's face, at least try to be something they're not? Or is it just impossible and not even worth the effort?
No. Well, first of all, winning and doing what it takes to win is worth the effort every single time. Yeah. So by doing that, some players may get suspended by playing on the edge. And you have to take that as a team. For me, I need a few of my players with tattoos, maybe even a rap sheet, whatever that is, guys that are unpredictable, that can draw the other team or other players, and especially when you get to the playoffs, draw the elite players on the other team off their game and into the fight. And I'm a fan of Toronto. I wouldn't say I have been over, the last number of years, for them to become an elite team. I like their team, but they definitely need, in my opinion, certainly out of their division, they're going to need, performances that are out of character if they don't go out and make some trades to bring in, another big solid defenseman who's going to make it hard, like the Montreal Canadiens did to Toronto 2 years ago when they're in the playoffs, where it was difficult to get to the net. I think there's a few holes in Toronto when it gets to the playoffs. On a Tuesday night in the middle of the season, I mean, their skill can win and it can overwhelm teams. And, of course, you need goaltending, which they've had for the better part of the season. I'm a fan of Toronto. I really am. A year ago, I wouldn't have said that. But I definitely think I heard a rumor. I'm not sure if it's even been talked about up there, guys, but like a player like Ben Sherratt from Montreal, that's especially a guy who could step into the absence of Muzzin if he's out for the rest of the season. Or hopefully it's just the regular season if that's the case, where you can get a player that comes in and can actually be there, and then you get a guy like Muzzin back. All of a sudden, you got a more difficult defense to play against. So, for me, I think there's still moves to be made, and I'm sure the brain trust in Toronto would. I hope they would recognize that because everybody I talk to in the National Hockey League, and we all have very similar beliefs of Toronto. They can be great, but are they going to be? And that's the question. And until they are, there's always going to be a question.
No question. Leaf fans can be rest assured they're asking the Montreal Canadiens and other teams. I think it's the price that's an issue. They would take Ben Sherratt all day long, even on a rental, but I don't know if they're willing to pay the price. And you hope that those prices drop in the next little while. But, whether it's Ben Sherrod or anyone else that has a little bit more of a natural element for physical play, I am of the believer, and I'm going to ask you, Mayday, if you bring in a guy like that, it can be contagious. It can pull things out of you that you didn't necessarily had, because there is strength in numbers when more guys are willing to do it.
Kyper, you couldn't say it better. It's so true, and the dynamics of a team can change. I mean, within a season, right? Teams get hot, teams get cold, and what is that? I mean, it's the same players. They show up, they've got the same skill set, but it's an attention to detail that really does matter. It's having guys with a purpose, at the arena that maybe ignite that fire within other players that, on certain games. But when you come down the stretch and you go into the playoffs, I think there's two things that I would say that bode well for Toronto. And I'm going to start by saying their division isn't easy, obviously. You got three of the best teams in the National Hockey League, and then whoever finishes first most likely is going to face Boston, right? And Boston's a heck of a team, and they've proven success in the playoffs. When I look at Toronto, I say failures, but their lack of success is a motivator. And their young core, look at Mitch Marner, what he's done over the last month. Unreal, right? First star. You got the best goal scorer in the game right now in Austin Matthews. I do like Nylander and Tavares on the second line. Their top six is dynamite. It really is. Bunting has been a pleasure to watch and follow. I just like the way he has filled that void of Zach Hyman. But imagine Toronto if they still had Zach Hyman as well.
Right.
That you can now all of a sudden your third line is now formidable, and you go down. So it's not. I wouldn't even pick on any of the players on the Toronto Maple Leafs roster. They're all capable. They're all quality. It's just a matter of where you're slotted in and where you play. I was fortunate enough, as Nick was, to win a Stanley Cup. And we had players that bounced around from the first line to the fourth line and sometimes didn't play in the playoffs. But every game that we played, or most of them, we only lost 5 to win the Stanley Cup. We had performances from every player. And because they were given the opportunity or placed in the right situation or right role, every guy actually brought what they could do. So I don't know if a leopard can change his spots, to answer your question, Justin.
Yeah.
About is it worth it to do something? I'll tell you what, winning with a group of friends and a team, and certainly an organization like the Toronto Maple Leafs, I'll tell you what, if
Take
I could
a couple
ever
punches
play
for
again,
that.
No, right? I literally, I mean this too, but I'd get beat. But I'd fight my mom to win another Stanley Cup. 100%.
I'd fight your mom too. That sounds great.
And my mom,
Wrestle.
my mom would be ready for the challenge. She's tough, but it is absolutely worth doing whatever it takes to be a part of a winning organization, a winning team. And you know what? You need the passion and that conviction to get there. That's just a decision to be made. So anybody can play hard. That's where, will over skill if skill doesn't work hard, right? But skill combined with that will that we speak of should always win. Certainly in a 7-game series. But you can't tell me anybody that has any excuse that they didn't have the energy to do whatever it took when they make it to the Stanley Cup playoffs. And by the way, I'm so fortunate. Again, I said I was part of a winning team, which was amazing. But I was in the playoffs for a number of other years. It took me 16 years in the NHL up until that moment to even have a chance to play in a Stanley Cup semifinal or final. It's not easy. So just because a team fails doesn't mean that they're inadequate players. The situation, the team they're playing against, and then you have a player that steps out of character and does something special. That's when you find lightning in a bottle, if you want to call it that. But I like, I'm not happy with the Buffalo Sabres. Hopefully they can get it together. I think Kevin Adams, he's got a lot of work to do, but I think he's got the reins to do it, hopefully for himself. For Toronto, unfortunately, they have to win for all of us to accept that they're a good team and a successful team. They have to go deeper in the playoffs 100%.
My money's on your mom.
Me too. Me too. but I mean that when I say, Nick,
I know
you have guys that literally should have been in the like a surgical room, whether it's a shoulder or a knee or a hernia or whatever the ailments are. If you win the Stanley Cup, you've got at least 6 to 10 of your players that are going in for surgery. They've sacrificed not only time and space, but they sacrifice their body for personal and team gains. And if you don't have an organization or a lineup that's willing to do that, I don't think it's possible to win in the NHL or to win the Stanley Cup unless you have a group like that.
Brad May, we really appreciate your time, man. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, thanks, man.
I so appreciate it, guys. All the best, and next weekend should be a fun one in Hamilton for sure. Tim Hortons Field.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that. Brad May, everybody, thank you.
Bye. Thanks.
We're going to go to break, but he likes the Leafs a lot more than I thought.
Yeah.
Just knowing his style and his and I don't necessarily disagree with him that the Leafs are close. They are close. Do they need
to fight their moms?
If it will help.
Maybe it will.
But maybe they're just that one guy or that couple of guys just away from really drawing more out of the guys.
I thought May was awesome. Like, that was a really interesting listen on how close the Leafs are, but also, what guys go through. God, remember Bergeron the year they won the Cup? He had a punctured lung. He's playing with a punctured lung. What does that mean?
Means you'd fight your mom.
Does mean you would fight your mom. That is the direct equivalent. Wouldn't fight your mom.
We're going to take a quick break. Aaron Ward will join us after, and we'll just we'll maybe continue that toughness conversation. And can you fake it a little more in 2022?
There are degrees of faking it. You can fake it a little
That's
bit.
Justin Bourne's question after the break. You're listening to Real Kyper and Bourne on Sportsnet's 590, The Fan, and Sportsnet's YouTube channel.
is Real Kyper and Bourne on Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
The Kypreos, Justin Bourne. Just finished having a very good conversation with Brad May. Let's pick it up with Aaron Ward, former NHLer, three-time Stanley Cup winner, and currently works on NHL player and puck tracking for Technolog. Wardo, what's going on, man?
Just got back from an alumni weekend in Dallas. Eddie Belfour sponsored it, so they had Eddie Belfour's whiskey there, all 4 versions of it. So of course, I was obliged to sample it all weekend. So my liver currently is taking a detox.
I did see
time off.
I did see some of the pictures, including a center ice bout between Fiddler and was it Kyle?
Kyle Quincy.
Kyle Quincy.
So
Where were you?
Partner.
Where were you?
We lined up for the face-off. We're getting ready, and so I'm trying to deal with the fact that we're playing in front of like 12,000 people.
I noticed.
While, right? So I'm thinking to myself, my legs aren't stiff because I'm old. They're stiff because I got a little bit of nerves going. So I'm focusing on that. And Quincy comes up and says, "Hey, I want you to give me a bad pass." I said, "What do you mean?" He's like, just give me a bad pass because Fiddler and I have something going. I'm like, so you mean pass you normal? You want it in your feet or behind?
You didn't have to ask. It was coming anyways.
I know. I'm like, if I get the puck, I'm throwing a grenade at you. So he's like, well, so I said, I'm a little leery if we plan this, that you might actually get hurt and somehow it's going to fall on me. So whatever happened, they went in and there was a collision in the corner. And the glass rattled and stuff started flying. I'm like, oh, that looks legit. They're really selling it. So when they lined up, perfect execution of the dance at front, like the actual fighting, like lining each other up. They got in there, and then I didn't even know the music was like choreographed. They had music playing, like country music. So they did their deal, and then we played the rest of the game. And I will tell you, it's a reminder, wherever I think I am at my age, I cannot play this game at that level. Holy cow.
Wardo, my dad had a fantasy camp for years, and we would bring out a bunch of ex-NHLers, and they would come out and skate. And a lot of the guys, same thing, hadn't skated in a long time. And you would ask the guys who weren't players, like the fantasy camp payers, and they would say, oh, Trache still got it, eh? And it's like, no, he doesn't. It's just the hands are there, the brain is there. What do you find went for you? What makes it so impossible now?
Okay, so I'll say this. There's a little bit of home ice advantage kind of shenanigans because they stacked their team. Like they had Ales Hemsky, who's 3 years removed from playing, and he was going wide everybody was
miles an hour.
Oh, yeah. They stacked the team not just in quality via numbers, but we had a pretty decent decor. We had Quincy, Yuri Fisher, myself, and Danino. So we focused on D. What I found was when you got more than 20 seconds into your shift and you had to go from net front to the corner, the return rate was at a total public skate level. I had no.
Was there music in the background?
No, it was embarrassing. Well, the funny part is, so you mentioned older Islander states. Eric Nystrom was out there.
Oh, he can
and
go.
Body by Jake, right? So he's flying around. I'm like, okay, you're going to make the rest of us guys look. We didn't look bad, but I would tell you that it was absolutely a stress on your abilities. I play general level pickup hockey with the same guys. No yahoos. I know the pace. No one's going to be stupid, and it's a lot of skill. And I use skill with an air quote. I got out there Al Secord. Al Secord was playing for Dallas. Now, not a Dallas Star, but he lives in there because he's a pilot for American Airlines. Not only did I get warned not to wake up Al because Al still has that little trigger of competitiveness and he might cross-check me in the face, but this guy, he's I think 63. I got done the game. I Googled him. I'm like, dude, 63. Up and down that wing hard. I couldn't even get my gap on him.
Love it.
So I have to admit, I saw the clip on social media, and I'm watching it, and the first thing I notice is the crowd. And the moment the gloves come off at center ice, and then you could hear the buzz out of the 13,000 people in the stadium, and I'm watching it. And I'm thinking it's legit, and they break into this dance, and I'm going, oh my God, the game's just gone crazy now, and I had to go watch it again. and again.
You thought maybe
and then it dawned on me it was an alumni game. And I gave it thank God. It's an alumni game.
Well,
I thought.
The funniest part was I knew it was happening, so I looked around it, and, like, the buzz in the building, like you said, like, I had guys stand up and smashing the glass like they were it was WWE.
They thought it was really legit.
People love blood.
Well, Eddie Mio didn't know. Eddie Mio was in that. He says to me, he's like, "Good God, what are they doing?"
Yes.
I'm like, "No, this is set up. This set up." He goes, "That does not look set up." And then all of a sudden they break and dance. He's like, "Oh Lord."
How old's Eddie Mio?
We're good.
Oh, Eddie's got to be 60.
Eddie plays the
68.
circuit. Oh yeah.
Wow, it's a heck of a game. Quite the spread in ages in that game.
It is. So, Wardo, this kind of shifts into what we've been talking about, the theme today and maybe a little bit yesterday, as we came off a Toronto Maple Leaf game where they were run pretty good on a couple occasions. Morgan Riley 8-1 along the wall. Tavares 8-1 along the wall. And then last night, I don't know what you caught out of Tampa Bay and Ottawa, but it was physical in Tampa Bay with the likes of Anthony Cirelli and Corey Perry at age 36 still getting it done physically. And we're wondering now, as far as the Leafs are concerned, do they still have enough in the room with the roster that it is that they can just ramp it up a little bit? And then we came into a conversation of, can you fake it now better than we did in our era? Because we knew if we faked it, they'd laugh at us and then they'd kick the crap out of us. But maybe today the Leafs can maybe ranch it up a little bit without, needing to go all 70s brawling.
Yeah, it's a tough one, right? Because the truth is, and we talk about it, the February Blas, I know we just turned into March, but when you're a successful team and you elevate your level of focus and investment in the season to get that spread, that safe place, it's naturally a human instinct to back off in some capacity. And here's the other thing you have to contend with in that locker room. In light of Toronto being Toronto, that every single night, because of the notoriety of not just the fan base and the players in the city, everybody loves to beat Toronto. It's just a fact. Known fact around the National Hockey League. It can become mentally taxing to be a Toronto Maple Leaf. I'm not giving excuses. I'm simply stating that these guys have to play every night differently than, say, being Nashville, right? Nashville gets guys coming to Nashville, and they want to go to Tootsie's, and their focus on beating Nashville isn't at the same level as wanting to beat Toronto. So the mental place of a locker room, that's the dynamic that really has to be worked on. I don't know if you have to Donnybrook it. I don't believe that's the case. I do agree. I mean, you're listing off fights. There's a fight in the outdoor game. Maroon and who win them? I'm all of a sudden, I'm in Dallas realizing I thought this was the league would not want. In a platform game, there's a fight happening. But I think that with the length of the season, past 2 weird seasons of pandemic and everything's condensed, guys are at the place where they're mentally exhausted. And as you play these games, you have to find from day to day a new way to motivate yourself and get mentally focused. For me, Toronto, I think, is also in a unique place that up front, from a player perspective, things seem to be relatively okay. I think the creeping of the story that's happening in behind them with the goalie questions, a trade deadline coming up, what's going to happen, right? If you look at teams around the league, oftentimes it's problematic to play on your front foot when there's a problem in net. And so I think for Toronto, when you come into these games, there may be a little bit of apprehension, feeling like you have to dial back the level of not recklessness, but just playing the game with that feel and focusing more sometimes on playing more defensive because of the fact that since the start of 22, Campbell's been an absolute struggle.
Yeah. He really has. There's no doubt about that, and I can see it affecting the guys. One story that we talked about a little bit yesterday, Wardo, I thought of you, was the NHL releasing this data on face-off win probabilities. We're going to find out, guy on his right side in the O-zone has a 60% favorite on this draw, and then, you saw the whole thing, I'm sure.
Listen, I sat in
what's
with
your
it.
thought on that?
I literally,
perfect.
So it was crazy because I saw this. I'm like, I was there the night. So the first night we active tested it was Eichel's game.
Yeah.
Right. So it's technically a probability as you line these two guys up, they work the numbers and they decide who's more likely to win this based on the location of the face-off, the stage of there's so many parameters beyond what I'm even capable of listing. And I got to tell you, as I was watching the demo happen, it was uncanny how accurate it was.
Yeah.
Like I would say, as I sat, because I was going back in there, we actually had Turner at our facility, a remote facility in Durham, North Carolina, watching some of these games. And as we were watching this Vegas game, I'd say 8 out of the 9 faceoffs that I watched and I paid attention to the probability, it was accurate, dead on. So how the use or why the use, I'm not always able to relate to you, everybody, right? So I'm assuming that somebody wants to use it for a wagering end, but from a team and tactical standpoint, I wouldn't mind knowing that. I wouldn't mind knowing when a key faceoff has to be taken at the end of the game, and over the course of the game, I can quickly consult something and realize this guy is not only on, but his matchup against this likely individual gives me a favorable outcome. I'm probably going to play it, right? I had to ask this question. We had a roundtable in Dallas, and I was kind of put on the spot because I had all these old school hockey guys from Dallas and Detroit sitting around with all these sponsors, and they said, explain to me why analytics matters. And I said, it doesn't have to matter to you if you don't want it to, right? It doesn't have to all be black. It doesn't have to be all white. There can be a gray area. These are areas when people kind of poo-poo why we're doing it, like, oh, we're just taking the game so much further into the depths and the darkness of numbers. Well, honestly, if you're the genius who somehow has a way to consult that, and it's a key face-off, and you're on the verge of, keeping the score where it's at in your defense's own face-off, and you make the playoffs, how much is that number worth to you? So
right.
There's so much that goes on. I think it's unique. There's where they're taking these numbers, but the probability, if you don't like it, don't put too much value into it. If you do, pay attention to it and have fun, like make it a drinking game. Every time it's wrong, take one.
How far can we take the probability throughout a hockey game outside of face-offs? 2-on-1s, 3-on-2s?
That I don't know. It was news to me. Like I saw that. Like I always thought when I was trying to, from our perspective, from the player and puck tracking standpoint, when I was asked about things you'd want to put on TV, like I'd ideally, as Crosby lines up for a face-off, say against Deneau, I would want to know the percentage in game. So if these guys come third period have already lined up 7 times against each other, I want to know the record. That for me is a probability. Like, hey, Deneau's had Crosby's 5 of 7. Here's his percentage. That's something that an analyst or a color guy can talk about as
right.
something predictive as you head into the face-off, and it's kind of like a checklist. If I'm a fan, I'm like, oh, look, he's continuing, or he didn't. That's a change in the path. So I don't know where else the probability goes, but I think again, Amazon, center of this, working through this technology and taking it to this distance. They have infinite dollars. I don't know if you've seen all their trucks on the road, but
they're doing okay.
They seem to do whatever the hell they want nowadays. So I mean, they can probably tell you who's going to step on the ice first for warm up.
Yeah. So Wardo, you kind of have been involved in a lot of this revolution behind the scenes and seeing things develop. Is there anything else that you can tell us that they work on behind the scenes we haven't seen yet? Anything that's coming? And maybe the answer is no. Just curious.
Well, from my standpoint, and I'll say specifically to Sportsnet, so the Canadian market is very slow to adopt the graphics and the live data and the prepackaged videos because, and it's just a fact, the Canadian market is more apt to want a traditional presentation. So when I deal with, say, Minnesota, or I deal with Seattle, or I deal with the Islanders, there's a good number of broadcasters that want to insert all this stuff. The Canadian viewer maybe doesn't want to see it, and maybe the viewpoint is, hey, listen, we don't want to take risks, or there's also a frame of mind that people might be insulted by basic information. So the idea that we have now, from my perspective, is how to enhance and make things more attractive. So whether it's a graphic, there's an idea here, because we have a sensor in the puck, because the posts are fixed on that ice and the cameras are configured so we know where everything is on the ice. I can now draw a graphic that goes from the puck, and it makes a triangle from post, so it goes post to puck, puck back to post. Mm-hmm. I can shade that area. I can give you a graphic and tells you if the sight line was obstructed for a goalie. I can take it even further, which is not giving any, top secret anything, but I'm working on something where I can put a midpoint right at the center of that post, draw it to the back because there's a sensor on that goalie, and I can tell you if he's even square to the shot.
Ooh,
I can tell you how long.
That one would be great.
I can tell you how long.
Not for Mrazek.
Right. So, No, not for a lot of goalies, right? I'm like, if you think biometrics might piss guys off, imagine if telling me you're going to tell a goalie he was completely out of position
off
and
the post.
they're going to throw that sensor out. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
so,
there.
And you can measure how long it takes them to get back there.
Yeah.
That's the places I'm taking. So, and the other thing, I'll give you another example of where this can work. I'm enamored by a guy like Chris Kreider because 2 years ago he was getting kicked out of New York. They're talking about they're going to give him away. What does this guy do? Complete failure. Now
he owns the front of the net.
Oh my God! But that's the cool part, right? So and I was just out in Dallas, and Dallas is trying to determine what are they going to do with Pavelski? Trade, sign? What are they going to do? Where's the value? Well, when you put something in, and I don't want to give this one away, but there's a way to put something on the ice that can tell you the location. Everybody talks about home plate. There's something different you can put out there. Like Chris Kreider dominates the 2-foot area in front of a goalie. How it is that any team doesn't place that guy on a power play standing right by Chris Kreider and just sacrifice and go with 3 killers and one guy just shadows him, I have no idea. But you can differentiate between a guy who tips a puck 3 feet, which I think is way harder to tip a puck past a goalie from 3 feet out, than a guy like Pavelski who's adept at doing it at about a 10-foot range. Because we have location and because we have, I'm going to get technical, X, Y, and Z. Z, you can tell how high the puck is, and X, Y, where on the ice it is. You can differentiate and actually kind of compare guys and their abilities and show how great they are at things, right? For me, the analytics on TV, I want to highlight how great a guy is. Like there's a skill set involved with what that guy just did that most can't do. And Chris Kreider functioning 2 feet from the net, which is in a phone booth area, almost in the Thomas Holmstrom way. This guy's as good, if not better in certain areas in that front than Holmstrom was.
So, Kyper, sorry, how would you feel about it? Like if they said, hey, we're going to put this thing on you that's going to tell us how hard you're working, how much you're...
Well, it kind of brings me to my next question or comment for both of you guys is, you mentioned that you like it, Aaron, because it can highlight, how great a guy is, but can it hurt you when it comes to negotiating a contract? Is it, we don't care about this stat, but we care about it when it makes you look bad because we can save money?
Yeah, you're slowing down and we can tell it statistically.
Here's the truth. So, and this is where I'm at, which inevitably players will have to accept. They outlawed in the CBA, you cannot put a wearable on a player. You can put it in practice, you can find out what his heart rate is, but you can't put anything on a guy that allows you to see anything about his performance. Now, I mean, whether it's computer vision, which is our company's competitor, or ours that wears a sensor, the fact that we have time, speed, and distance, I can essentially give you a guy's workload. I can tell you how hard he worked on the ice just with a mathematical equation. Now, here's the caveat. It's not my mathematical equation. I don't know how to do it. Eventually, though, a data scientist can, and he can assess a value, and that's one of the things I would love to talk about, right? An example, Brent Burns. When we tested this 2 years ago, San Jose was playing in Vegas. We're sitting in Vegas. San Jose takes a penalty with 4 minutes and 15 seconds left. Brent Burns steps on the ice. He kills the penalty for the entire 2 minutes. The play continues to go till it goes down. I realize there must be a problem with his sensor because he was out there for 4 minutes, 15 seconds. Guess what? Brent Burns did the 4 minutes, 15 seconds.
Is the real deal.
He killed the entire penalty. No break. And he traveled 4 kilometers. So he did not screw the pooch on that. Yeah, he didn't screw the pooch on that shift. He was up and down the ice. He did the whole thing. That, for me, is a value. So not only is Brent Burns interesting, Connor McDavid has yet to register a top speed because the ice is not long enough for him to stop accelerating.
Ooh.
It's crazy.
See, that stuff I find fascinating.
That's really cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. Like, I don't need to hear or see that another guy has slapped the puck an average that everybody else is having.
Yeah.
But when you tell me something that much different, the 4 kilometers on 4 minutes.
There's good storytelling there.
Is fascinating to me.
So that's my job. That's my job as a non-engineer. When I look specifically at a Sportsnet, is I've got to take the season and figure out what would capture the attention of the Canadian audience. What type of story? So you don't want to dive too deep into a guy that's going to be sitting in his armchair and not want to be bored because he's trying to sip his beer and watch the game overall. If you give them tidbits of interesting information that capture them, that's all we're looking for. And so that's my role. And I think sometimes the engineers think I'm an idiot, but again, I try to dumb down the game sometimes for them.
So what you're saying is we got to get rid of some dinosaurs here at Sportsnet.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying I've got to. We have to create things that interest them, that over the top inspire them to want to use it.
You want to hire a dinosaur to get rid of dinosaurs?
Dinosaur.
I was waiting for the Kyper drop.
I know a free agent for the last 4 years, and what's under the phone would be happy to come work for Sportsnet.
Takes one to know one. Wardo, fascinating stuff, man. We really appreciate your time on the show. People love it.
No problem, anytime.
We're on YouTube. The chat's going great. Where did I see Rick King says, a great guest, smart hockey guy.
He is. Appreciate it, Wardo.
Aaron Ward.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks, pal. See, yeah, that would be of great interest that someone could cover 4 kilometers.
4 kilometer shift. That's awesome.
I've never
that.
covered 4 kilometers
in
my
4
whole
minutes.
hockey career.
I also love Connor McDavid. The ice isn't long enough for him to stop accelerating. We don't know his top speed. We need to get him on the Rideau Canal.
Yeah, speed skating rink.
It is remarkable, like the level of information now, and how it's accelerated the last few years, and what is continuing to come in.
Yeah.
And how do you keep up with it all?
Well, I don't know if I said this on the show yesterday or not, but the biggest challenge for teams right now is finding people who can figure out what information is valuable. Because so many companies and so many people are like, stats, we have these numbers. Look, you can find this out. And, some teams want to use the stats, but what matters? And trying to figure out what matters is super interesting. And for Wardo and for us in storytelling and in this line of work, trying to figure out what's interesting is something too. It's the challenge.
And we got a couple minutes here, but
bases punched per minute for the Leafs.
It really takes like special individuals who have prominent roles to accept that and not feel threatened.
At the same time, you don't just want to put stuff up there. Like, I'll be honest, right now there's all this information and I see networks pushing to put it on. And it's like, all right, that Cole Caulfield shot against Peter Mrazek was 68 miles an hour. I was like, okay.
Yeah. Nobody cares.
Yeah, and I appreciate that they're trying to bring more information, but oftentimes someone says top speed of Connor McDavid on this rush is 33 kilometers an hour. Is that good? I have literally no idea. Is that?
No context.
Yeah,
what's the, it's not like it's a car where it's like, wow, he's going 100 miles an hour. That's fast. You have no context for how fast.
And we are dealing with still a lot of people that let me just watch the game.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
Just quit jamming it down my throat.
When I joined the Marlies, they used to get a printout from the R&D department of all the stats. Here's the team's exit success rate on breakouts, and that was my first thing. Was like, all right, is that good? 74% good? What's this 28? What's good? So they started putting in league average or what and highlighting, shading things green and red because there's so many numbers. Just I don't know. Need to know if it's good or not.
All right, let's ask a few people on the chat line on our YouTube channel whether or not they like the new data, they want to see more of it. Let us know your thoughts on our conversation with Aaron Ward. We're going to...
Before we go to break,
interesting.
We just wanted to bring up our Leafs ticket contest.
Oh, good, because you've forgotten this the last, 2 or 3 days?
No.
Good job, Sam.
Just yesterday.
Sammy?
Just yesterday. So...
remember, you're a producer first.
I know. God, it's hard to remember that sometimes. All right. So our Leafs ticket giveaway contest is back, and we're giving you a chance to win Leafs tickets every game for the rest of the season with our Hockey Code Words contest. All you have to do is download the episodes of Real Kyper and Bourne and listen for the code word that will be provided during each episode. Then text the code word to 59590, and you'll be entered for a chance to win a pair of Leafs tickets. Each different code word counts as an entry. First up is Saturday's game against the Vancouver Canucks. Make sure you download Wednesday's and Thursday's episode of the Fan Morning Show as well. The winner will be selected on Friday. So there you go.
Code words.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break here. After the break, Adam Oates, former NHLer and now skills coach with Oates Sports Group. How about his NHL numbers, Sammy?
He had a few assists, didn't he? 3 or 4?
Off the charts. Almost 1,100 assists.
I think of him as an all-time great. But I just looking at his numbers today, typing the lineup, I was floored by the almost 1,080 assists. It's Crazy.
Also later in the show, maybe a conversation on Max Domi. Start some chatter with the Leafs. What do you think? We'll ask.
Wait, what?
We'll ask JB after the break. David Poyle maybe wanting to resign Philip Forsberg. Plenty of more on the Real Kyper and Bourne Show.
Kyper and Bourne on Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
Dougalicious on our YouTube chat says Willie isn't going anywhere.
No, he's not.
That contract is so juicy right now. He's not far off when you consider where guys are at $10 and $11 million. Okay, speaking of a guy that could easily be making $11 or $12 million a year in his heyday, Adam Oates joins us now, president of Oates Sports Group, focusing on the skills of the game. Oatesy, thanks for joining us. I always got a huge thrill out of working with you on Hockey Night in Canada, and just the attention to detail. And you were at it again on Monday with Ron McLean. And to listen to you break down a few plays that night included the difference between picking up a puck along the wall with one hand or two hands and how it changed. I found it extremely fascinating. Thanks for joining us, and just quickly, your thoughts on the overall skill of the game today.
Well, good to hear your voice, Kyper. Good to be back. Yeah, you know what? I had a lot of fun the other night. Ron asked me to go on, and I kind of missed those days being on the show. That was a lot of fun. You know what? As always, the game gets better and better and better. It's very, very highly skilled, very fast. The guys are strong. I think I said the other night, when you get to the level of, I would say, junior, college, pro, you're talking about really, really good hockey players. And we're talking about guys that can make split-second decisions. So, you know what, when we go about working with guys, we work on that, right? We work on all the little tiny decisions. And in answer to your question, I mean, the skill of the game is elite.
Yeah, it certainly has come a long way. The one thing I wonder about is, some guys that I played with in my own career were just so good naturally. Like, it's almost like they didn't think about the game. Does it complicate things for certain players when you say, hey, have you thought about switching to this hand or that hand or leaning the other way? Do some even great players struggle to make changes?
I would say the answer to that is yes. And I would say, you know what, that's one of the fun parts about what I do is everybody has a different personality. Where I was a guy that, for me to change my left glove would take me a year. And Brett Hull could change his gloves and play tonight. So, because we had, we're similar in some ways, but personality-wise, there's no way I could do that. So everybody is different. But generally, the other night, when you see something, is it a one-off or is it a recurring theme? And the number one thing that we look at our staff is, I don't want guys to get hurt. I want them to be able to play a long time. I want them to be able to be successful. So we're talking about contact and execution. So there's some times where I go to a guy and say, hey, look, your coach is not happy. You better fix this now. You don't have a leash. And if you've played the game long enough, you know that sometimes you have a long leash and you don't. So how you go about fixing it, that's up to you.
Mm-hmm. When it comes to the physicalities, and I love your comment about guys not leaving themselves vulnerable, but the hits from behind, and when is it the guy's fault that's doing it, and when is it the fault of the receiver who turns his back at the worst time and leaves himself exposed? I mean, do you get into those details as well, Adam, with your clients?
Oh, 100%, Kyper. 100%. I would tell you that of our clients, that's the number one thing we look at every day. Do you make yourself vulnerable? And it's funny because obviously the league, the safety committee, they're in a really difficult spot because of how fast it happens. And like you said, if a guy turns his back at the last second, how can you blame the guy trying to hit him? And what is that magic amount of time necessary for a guy to sort of reroute or change his mind? And that's a very difficult subject. No question it is. But there's also, sometimes you see there are certain guys that are repeat offenders getting hit. And that's a subject that should be sort of addressed as well. And I'm sure they do. But you know what? At the end of the day, that that is it, and some guys never get hit. What a coincidence, right? Like that. And you know what? We do play a contact game. So when you get hit, do you take the hit correctly? We also work on that. That's very important.
Yeah, we've talked a little bit on this show about like Andre Kasha seems to get blown up once a night, and I can't remember Mitch Marner getting hurt or hit in like 3 years here. I don't think it's a coincidence that the way that shakes out. Are you able to tell us some of the guys that you've worked with in the NHL? And I'm also curious when you work with these guys, if it's in season or off season.
Well, you know what? Part of the deal we have is the privacy factor because everybody's got an ego.
Yeah.
I had an ego. Kyper had an ego.
No.
Everybody's a little different. Everybody's a little private in terms of what they want to work on. But I think the player you just talked about from Toronto, he got hit in Calgary a few games ago.
Yeah.
And here's something and I sent that clip out to all our clients because I obviously felt it was a hit that he should not have taken. And this is like, the best analogy I have is when you drive the car. You drive your car. Every single day you get in that car. You better know where everything is at all times. So when you're a hockey player, shouldn't it be the same thing? So he's a right winger. He was on right wing. So you've been playing right wing your whole life. Don't you know where danger's coming from? So is that a one-off or is that a glitch? That's what I call them. When I see a guy get sort of like make a mistake in the same spot, it's a glitch. So where does that glitch come from? It's a blind spot. Why does he have a blind spot? What's the particular reason he has a blind spot? So we get into this very deeply in terms of a guy's game, in terms of trying to fix all these little tiny things. And on the flip side, obviously a coach, he wants execution. End of the day, he wants execution. So we work on every possibility to execute whatever that particular play is at that time.
I remember that Zadorov on Kasha,
yeah.
And the tendency for like the Leafs are a very highly skilled team, and it's almost as if everybody wants the middle of the ice. I honestly believe that Zadorov knew that the moment Kasha had the ice or the puck, he was heading towards the middle of the ice.
Yeah, you could be right. It could be a one-off. I still would sort of I think I did watch the play where he pivoted wrong and he took his eyes off of where danger was coming from. So Zadorov's the left D. He's the right winger. So when you get that puck on your side of the ice, basically the left D is the first guy that you should be sensing danger from. And maybe Zadorov anticipated that he had his head down or what, the guy wasn't ready for it. So I would have to look at the play for real and talk to him in terms of what were you thinking at that time?
Yeah, you should talk to him, just in general. But so throughout the season, I wonder, if you're in touch with your guys on little things. You mentioned the other night that you're talking with Hughes about not taking contact on a certain play. I'm curious if you get pushback from guys who say, well, I disagree. I don't see it this way, or this isn't something I need to work off, or if guys come to you open-minded in the first place.
You know what? Everybody's open-minded.
Yeah.
There are the occasional times, for example, I would ask that player, what were you thinking there? And then we talk about the possibilities. So, I want to give a player possibilities. Jack Hughes the other day, he shot off his right foot. There are times you shoot off your right foot. For sure there is. That was not one of them.
Right.
So can he shoot off his left foot? Well, not everybody can do every skill easily. That's part of the deal, right? Some guys don't like shooting off their front foot. That's a fact. Some guys don't have the right curve, so therefore they can't shoot off that foot. So they develop their game around one foot. But there's a particular instance where he should have been on his left foot, slung the puck, and protected himself. So is that a one-off? It could be, but I would watch his video to see if it happens more often.
We're speaking to Adam Oates, Hall of Famer, and now president of Oates Sports Group, skills coach to many of the NHL stars. So Justin just mentioned some resistance from the players. How about coaching staffs in terms of guys like you weren't around for me in my era, and now all of a sudden these guys come in, you're trying to maybe help them adjust their game a little bit. Is it touchy sometimes, Adam, for a guy like you to come in and maybe change something that maybe a coaching staff might not agree with? How difficult is it at times for you to manage that?
I would say it's year 6 of the business. And the first year, no one really ever said anything to me, but I obviously knew people would be leery. And I had just come from the coaching carousel. So I'm sure guys were wondering, what's he doing? I don't think that's the same case anymore, Kyper. We have no pushback. I've never been called. And I always tell the players, if a coach asks you, hey, show him. Show him what you work on. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because, like, at the end of the day, we don't talk systems. We don't. I don't. I work on shooting. I work on passing. I work on battling a net front D. I work on face-offs. The puck comes around the boards. How do you play it? That's what we work on. You know, you're a left shot D. Well, you go back, like I say this all the time, the hardest job in hockey is a defenseman going back for a puck with guys chasing them. Well, you have to do it every shift of your career. Every single shift of your career, you got to go back in your corner. So why don't we go get good there?
Yeah, no kidding.
Get good there.
So I was just thinking that, like, you know, a lot of times the best players in the world aren't often able to explain what they do. You know, like, I don't know, you know, Wayne Gretzky was an NHL head coach and it wasn't super successful. I don't know, maybe he was a great coach, but there are plenty of examples of guys who are so good and can't really bring that to other people. They just do it. Were you someone who actually thought through the process? Like, you had almost 1,100 assists. Was that something that just came easy to you? Is it a challenge to teach what you saw because you were so exceptional at it?
You know what? I'm a very analytical guy, always was. And I really enjoy the puzzle. And I enjoy the puzzle of trying to get the guys to figure it out. Mm-hmm. And yeah, no question. That's the hard part. It really is. But that's, you know, because, like, we're talking about very talented men that were trying to add 1%, like Kyper said. Like, we didn't have anybody around in our era. I'm just trying to give a guy 1%, 2%. Like, he's a great hockey player. We're just trying to add little elements of his game. And you know what? I have spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to teach the subjects, for sure.
I really wish I would have had a guy like you around. I got to be honest, just to bounce off things. And while the coaching staff is there for you, there's still this kind of buffer zone that, you know, when it becomes a little bit too personal. And it would have been great to have a guy like you around. Just one more, Adam, before we let you go, and that is just you watching Matthews and Marner, and I don't know if they're clients or not, but if they're not, just one or two things that stand out in your mind on what you see when you watch them.
Well, you know what? Like, how do I say it? Well, first of all, they got a good team. They have each other. It really helps when you have each other. I think their skill sets complement each other. Obviously, when you think of Austin, you think shooter first. And I think when you think of Mitch, you think more playmaker first, right? So on that subject, I would say, okay, Austin, work on your passing. Mitch, work on your shooting, because that's what we think of, right? And then you know, then the other aspect of what we do is it's an 80-game schedule. It's tiring. What if game 35, because we talk a lot, I keep you sharp. I prevent you from getting a hit. Like, for example, I'm not trying to be funny, but when Austin Matthews hit the crossbar, how?
It relaxed for 2 seconds, right? Just
yes. Yes. Yeah, he didn't get pushed, right?
Yeah,
he didn't get pushed.
He lost his bearings. He lost where the net was. Something that he's known where it's been since he's 7 years old.
Exactly. That's what we say. Like, when guys go offside, like, what? You don't know where the blue line is? It's been there your whole life, man. How did you go offside?
Yeah.
Like, I never went offside in my life. But you're right, Kyper. For one brief instant, he lost his bearings. You know, it's like, so obviously he's a fantastic hockey player, fantastic. But he lost his bearings during a shift of a game. So, like, technically, that's what we do. We try and make it so guys don't lose their bearings. We try and make it so there's no little tiny glitches, because even the best can get better, right? You know, if you're a 13th forward, you better be working hard. But even the superstars, well, they're trying to get better too. Why? Well, because they want more. And that's the beauty of the job, right? Like, everybody wants a little more, and that's what it's about, because you want to play, you know, most guys want to keep playing.
Fascinating stuff. Hey, do you do anything? Do you do any coaching for broadcasters at all? Because the three of us
we could use 1 or 2%. Wouldn't hurt.
We could use about the 50%. Oatesy, thanks a lot for doing this. Some fascinating stuff. We'd love to have you on again soon, okay?
Okay, bud. Thank you, guys. Thanks, Justin.
Thanks, Adam.
Adam Oates. You know, our producer, Brian Spear, on Hockey Night in Canada would bring him on like once a month, maybe, if we were lucky. Yeah. And honestly, I would do stuff with him in the pregame, and I'd almost forget to talk because I'm just
like
absorbing
You're
it.
like, oh, I'm on the show as well.
Face-offs, right? Technique. And I may have taken 5 draws my whole life.
Right.
And I was like the 4th choice when everybody got waved out.
Send a D-man in first.
But he would be this analytical guy, and it's all methodical. It's all method to the madness.
It's
and the
tough
mind,
to react when you're thinking.
His mind just constantly turns.
Yeah.
Like no other guy I've ever met, to be quite honest with you, from a hockey perspective. Like, you know, you got your hockey nerds, and Scheifele's one of them because he'll talk all day long.
Yeah.
You know, he'll race home to watch, NHL Network and Sportsnet for the highlights and all of that. But when it comes to that, those extra little details, I don't think I've ever met anyone like Adam Oates.
You know, it reminds me of a golf swing where if you go to someone who's awesome, like PGA Tour players have coaches. They have swing coaches, like the best guys in the world. And those guys will say, well, okay, we'll do this differently. If you've ever changed your swing or your grip, it feels terrible. So my thinking with Oates is like, how do you get it to feel comfortable? And for those golfers, they take 10 kabillion swings on the range until it just feels like normal again. It has to be hard with these guys to get the reps in the season, to get them in the summer, to get them to a place where it comes natural. Because, you know, you can't be thinking on the ice. Like, it's a reaction game. So he's got a real challenge to put this 1 and 2% into guys. It takes a lot of reps and a lot of.
So if you got the pizza slice off the tee box, do you completely try to change your swing to straighten it out, or do you go? I just got
to aim left.
I got
you right.
I got to work with it. Then I'll just aim left and keep it.
I'll be honest. I watch people who hit banana slices, like Brent Gunning, who does the Leafs Nation show during the games. You know, loves golf, good player, big slice. Hits a big slice and just aims it, right? He just aims for it and plays it. It would drive me mental losing that yardage, the route the ball has to take. I'm a guy who would just kill myself trying to tweak it, but some people just, you know, it's a good life metaphor. Some people play their slices. That's okay too.
Yeah, I hit a little fade.
You got a little gentle, controlled fade there.
Yeah, but I just, you know, I'm the type of person, like, I know my limitations in all things.
And
I
that's
just play
good for golf.
It's great to go for.
For sports.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for hockey and golf, it's okay. But like, I don't really overthink a lot of things, as you guys probably know.
You know what coaches hate is the guy in the 4th line who's overthinking things and doesn't know his limitations. They're like, you're the guy who gets it in then changes. Yeah. And some guys who are good at that make it career
off
out
the glass
of it.
and in.
Yeah.
Mark Hasley on our YouTube chat says Adam Oates never went offside his whole NHL career.
You know, if you went through my entire career, I don't know if I went offside more than a time or two. It always blew my mind. You always have one guy on the team. I can remember, you know, a guy in college. You watch like Pierre Engvall again.
Wow.
Some people just go off like a dozen times. Like, what are you doing?
Well, I mean, I don't know anything about your game really, but were you a fast skater?
I was a good skater.
So I think the people that would go offside would be the people that are worse skaters.
I've had teammates, and I've probably done it a few times in my career where I've purposely went offside.
They wouldn't move the puck up the rink?
Wouldn't move the puck.
You're like, well.
I'm killing your play if you don't move it when you should move it.
That's great.
And that's the best way you can tell your teammate that if you don't do the right thing.
You've put me offside 3 times now.
If you don't, I'm going offside.
Well, I think
keep an eye on it sometimes. I can actually spot someone that they're going to kill the play. You are not getting to hold on to that puck.
Yeah. Oh, it's a thing for sure.
Guys learn. Guys do learn. I'm moving the puck.
Yeah.
It's the right thing to do.
But I do you think there's any credence to my theory that guys that are better skaters would probably go offside last because they don't have to work as hard?
No, there's some guys who just want to go. I think Engvall's a good skater. My college teammate that was offside constantly was a good skater.
Okay.
Just, I don't know. I think I think it is a hockey IQ thing and just kind of.
But I mean, I do like, he's like, it's been the same since you were 7.
Didn't just put it in.
It's been there forever. The only thing, they got rid of the red line. So now there's no 2-line pass.
Right.
All right.
Remember that?
A bajillion years.
Remember that was a rule? 2-line pass? What the hell was that?
Just suck the air out of the building. Breakaway pass, and he's in.
I don't know. Sometimes I think we should bring it back.
Whoa. Why?
Oh, my God. You watch some games, the chip and chase.
The long shot tip
and then
dump
it's
in
out.
is annoying.
It's like a friggin' ping pong some days with the chip and chase.
Yeah, I guess that. Yeah.
And then there's the one time that someone sneaks behind and gets a breakaway.
But the 2-line pass, it makes the passing through the neutral zone a lot more sort of pleasing on the eye, right? Where you have to snap it up a couple times before you get over. But
I can't go back. But
I'll tell you what it would do. It would get Willie Nylander to stop cherry picking.
Oh, Willie, what's he done lately, eh?
He's gone, right?
No, there's a few of them that like to sneak up there.
But there are guys who are good offensively and read the play, and they cheat for offense in a good way because they can score. Willie's one of those guys. I say go, cherry pick. You know what they should do, Kyper? No blue line either. So you don't have to tip and dump it in. Just let them play. If one guy wants to stand in the ozone,
no offsides.
None.
For Sammy's sake, I hope you're saying the exact same thing after the first round of the playoffs.
No,
me too.
No rules.
No rules. Okay, so some news and notes. Where are we at? We're at 127 likes on YouTube. What did we have yesterday? 200?
250 or something.
Ooh, let's
By
get
the
those
way,
up.
on the rules thing, Sammy, Sheldon Keefe believes goalies shouldn't be able to cover the puck.
Really?
Yeah. Anyway.
What?
Yeah. He just thinks if it's at your feet, whatever, you got to play it.
If we're doing goalie stuff again here, and we're talking about rules,
we're not going to change the game now, are we? In 20 minutes?
No, I'm going to tell you right now. Why don't Martin Brodeur been retired for however many years? Get rid of the trapezoid thing. I feel like that sucks out a lot of action in that corner.
No, we are going to change the rules now.
Are we?
Yeah.
All right, let's just go back to our news and notes.
Well,
yeah.
What,
I don't. No, I totally agree. I mean, there's a lot. There's a long list. I don't know if we have time.
No, but we could.
But I'd lose that trapezoid for sure.
Because you think about when I was a kid.
I'm with you on that.
So much crazy stuff always happened in that corner. When the goalie could, where they have it blocked off now, where that goalie could go over there. Crazy stuff always happened there. You know, you think of, I mean, that's where Cujo took down Mick Magoo in that area. I didn't really have any, it didn't really matter about that. But anyways, we can stop changing the game now.
Okay, where do you want to go? You want to go Nashville? You want to go Max Domi?
You said, you're like, went to break, and you're like, Leafs and Max Domi. And next on Real Kyper and Bourne, like, what's going on?
No, I think there's a lot of people out there in social media that's
been
gotten
hot
excited.
On Leafs Twitter. Leafs Twitter's been hot about Max Domi over the past few days. Yeah.
Now, I personally, and, you know, I've got a little bit of a personal connection because I'm friends with Ty, a teammate of mine, and known Max since he was a kid. And you know what my first thought is? I don't want Max Domi here.
Well, isn't he with the guy we've been talking about this whole show, them not having?
I just think that, first of all, right now, Max's game probably isn't where it needs to be.
Okay.
And to thrust him in this market with that name on his back, like, I'm not sure that he's ready for that, or the market would really be kind to him if he didn't hit it out of the park coming here.
Don't you think you would get like peak engagement? I don't know. Is he a guy whose engagement wanes a little bit? Because he can do lots of things.
I think that's very fair, Kyper. And I think there would be a certain faction of the fan base that would have certain expectations of a guy wearing the Domi jersey.
And another thing, too, is we've seen it over his career where Max has got a little tie in him. We saw that with Aaron Ekblad.
Wires cross here and there.
Right?
Wires cross.
So now you thrust him on a team where their wires have not been crossed in a very long time. And then the tendency would be more on Max to go out there and maybe do something and be that guy.
Yeah.
And it's like, No, he's not Ty. He's skilled. He can score. He can make plays.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it hasn't come as consistent as probably Max in Columbus or Montreal have wanted over the last few years. But I would hate to see Max come in and feel like Kadri did and then only get run out of town at the end. That we can't trust Kadri, and Kadri's no good, and he's stupid, and he makes dumb plays in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And I've said this all along. The only reason why Kadri went out and did that is because he got sick and tired of nobody else stepping up and just felt like he needed to do it.
It would put him in that position. But I mean, if I've been here this whole show, we're sure talking about them just needing someone who's in that position and willing to do it.
Yeah, be calculated with it though, and completely understand the dynamics of a move like that.
Yeah, it's just who's that guy? That's tough for me to track down mentally. Like, who is this fit for them? God, Domi had 28 goals one year, right?
I like Domi. I really do. I think he kind of brings an element that, like you said, they're missing. But I also think your Kadri comparison of him thinking that he has to overdo it could be a dangerous one.
There's a part of me thinking just like, so what?
Yeah. I mean, that's true. That's true too.
So what if he thinks he has to do it? Go ahead.
Would be nice to see someone overdo it for once.
Yeah. And maybe that's unfair to the kid. I get
all
your
you're saying
point.
is do it, and if you get run out of town, so be it. Next.
Well, all of a sudden, is this this is a house hockey team? Like, if the guy's put in a tough spot and it's hard for him, sorry.
Okay, and sorry that you got bumped out in the first round because Max went out there and did something that nobody else was going to do.
That's the risk.
Now, is it on Max or is it on Kyle Dubas for putting him in a position where he couldn't succeed?
Well, that would be on Kyle Dubas and Max, I guess, a little bit. It's just tough to say that they need this and it's available, but you don't want it. I don't know.
That's true.
Who's the guy? Who's the guy that can come in here and do that for your team?
Well, we'll find him, and we got it the whole week.
Would he wear 28? Does anyone at least wear 28? I don't think so, right?
I don't know, Sammy. That's a super fan question for you.
You don't care?
Already putting in him a number. Yeah. That would be a tough one. All right. Well, we'll keep an eye on that. That would be fascinating.
All right. David Poile wanting to re-sign Philip Forsberg. Well, no kidding. He's your best forward.
Yeah. This one kills me in the news all the time. That, teams have a good player and they're like, teams wants to sign their good player. Yeah.
We don't care.
I didn't have to put it in the lineup.
We don't care. Like, I'm not. That's stating the obvious. Of course he wants him. The question is not whether or not David Poile wants to re-sign him, but what if you don't get a number to him that he's satisfied with? Then what do you do?
Yeah.
That's what we want to hear from David Poile.
How much are they willing to spend on Philip Forsberg and his 26 goals?
Are you willing to keep him and rent them yourself? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, Nashville's sneaky hanging around, huh? That team's fourth in the Central Division, .604 winning percentage. You made the point that maybe Nashville's a team that wants to keep these guys.
Oh, my goodness.
Get some playoff games.
That's my dream all-in move for the Leafs. Forsberg.
Yeah.
I don't think they had the
What about Mikko Koskinen? Do you want him?
Would you trade Willie for Forsberg?
Yeah, I would. I would, yeah.
Oh, my God.
He's big. He's fast. He's
with their contracts, Forsberg expiring and Willie under.
No, the contract thing in a vacuum, 1-for-1 on the team. Yes, with the contract stuff.
What does Willie have left? 2 after this year?
I guess
sounds right.
So everybody, think about that for a second, because everybody's so focused on Austin being done after 2 more seasons. I think Willie's right there.
Yeah, Bill's got 2 more after the season.
And what do you think Willie's going to be asking when he's averaging 30 goals a year?
More than 6.
6.962.
His comparable will be Philip Forsberg.
Yeah. So
Forsberg coming in at 9 next year?
Probably around there.
Gotta be.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. So Mikko Koskinen won 8 of 9 games for the Oilers. Do you care?
Does Ken Holland care?
Yeah. It's a good question. Like, do the Oilers, are they going to get convinced at this run that he can be this guy? I was on the television last night and gave my opinion on the Oilers that how are they not going to push all their chips in here? Like McDavid, Draisaitl, 1-2 in the league again.
No different than
Pacific's no good.
Leafs got to push.
Right. They need to push. And didn't Holland like fairly recently say that they didn't want to move their picks and they're going to kind of halfway it?
At the Evander Kane stuff during that press conference, he was asked about it, and he was kind of half pregnant on it. But I don't know, man. It's nice for Oilers fans if you're looking at the standings. You're inside the playoff picture again. You know, that's a little weight off your shoulders. It's always nice as a fan just to look at a thing and see.
You have to. You have to go
on.
get a goalie. I'm sorry. You cannot trust 3 weeks
of Mikko
Koskinen.
Koskinen.
Of Mikko.
Yeah, there's way too big a sample.
So I watched him get a shutout last night. He can't catch anything. Like he is very Mrazek-esque. Everything he spits right back out. Sometimes it's the corners, but everything.
Go get a goalie. Go get a goalie. Okay, Leaf best bets tonight.
Yes.
Because we're just not going with the win, and we know that's coming.
Right. So this is the thing with, we're going to do a little chunk at the end of the shows, but I want to find a way for people to bet on the Leafs, but without betting directly on the money line. Because if you just bet them to win, you make no money. The books know that you want to bet the Leafs. They're like, oh, well, we're not going to pay.
And they're good. They're a very popular team who's very good.
So how do you bet the Leafs and find a way to win? I'm going to throw some stuff out there, see what Kyper first thinks of this. Austin Matthews to score first is plus 410, as in you bet $10, they'll give you 51 back. You profit 41.
Love that bet.
You do?
Yeah, all day long.
Yeah.
$10 to win, what, 50?
Yeah.
Yes, that's that one I would take.
And need I remind you, Craig Anderson has allowed 12 career goals to Austin Matthews.
12 goals to Matthews.
Yep.
Craig Anderson's still around, huh?
Yeah, he's playing tonight.
Hey.
4 goals in Matthews' debut.
Buffalo will be taking a penalty probably 2.5 minutes in, a hooking, chasing, and how do you not love that?
Flank.
Yeah, that's a good comfortable bet.
You
for
like
me.
the juice, huh?
And you could cash that one 20 seconds into the game like they did against Pittsburgh, where Matthews came flying down off the wing.
That's right.
Shot at low blocker.
Another way to make some money betting on the Leafs tonight. Over 1.5 points for Mitch Marner pays you plus 109. Which anything on the way Matthews and Marner are playing right now, I like. And
is it an automatic now?
It had 2 points.
2 points against Buffalo.
He's just humming along. 2 freebies. Sammy actually likes him plus 2.5. Don't you?
Plus 2.5 is plus 300. Sorry. Over 2.5 is plus 300.
Yeah.
So bet 10 to make 30 or bet 100 to make 300 on Marner having 3 points, which he seems like he does every night. Sabres suck. That top line's going to be buzzing tonight. I'm telling you. Full barn, first time.
Yeah.
Against a crap team.
They
love playing against
people
crap
don't hear
teams.
our pre-show and they don't get to hear how we talk about the upcoming games. I've never heard you and Nick unanimously just be like, they are going to pump Buffalo tonight.
Well, it's not good.
It's okay.
Usually.
I love same show drops.
Sammy will be so happy.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll be really happy.
Till someone runs Morgan Riley again.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you 5 guys on Buffalo's roster. I do a hockey show every day, and I don't know anybody.
H. Thompson gets points.
Yeah, I like Tuck.
What is, I know we're a hockey show, but what is going on with your Jays and the labor dispute there?
Why?
You're down today. I noticed the energy's down.
Yeah,
they canceled, the first 2 series?
Yeah, 3 less games against the Rays, which is great news. That's the one good thing to come out of the lockout. 3 less games against the Rays, but yeah, it's really depressing. I love the Jays. I love baseball. I play my whole life in the summer around Jays. Like I'd be like, oh well, as long as I'm home by 7:07, no problem.
As someone that's lived through a strike and a lockout, I get listening and hearing writers talking about the fans, and I think both sides, of course, they feel for the fans, but I can't recall in any of my labor disputes as an NHLer, did the conversation ever come up, what about the fans? The part of me, I get the emotional aspect of writing an article, what about the fans?
But no one cares.
It's just nobody brings you up in the negotiations, I assure you. It's just a business.
I know. And
unemotional. There are sharks in there.
This hurts.
There's sharks.
the most depressing
And you
part
guys
is,
don't come up. No one cares in a negotiation.
Yeah, and guess what? Because they know
We're
people
gonna
like
be
me.
right back.
Guess who's coming crawling back first game? Can't wait. Like I want to be like, I'll never watch another baseball game in my life. And it's just like I'm a blatant lie. I'll watch every game as soon as it starts.
And it's a massive game of chicken. That's what it is.
What's your prediction? When are they going to get going here? Are they going to start talking
Well,
again?
I like the history of their association sticking together. They've always had strong leadership, and for whatever reason, they've been able to stick together better than the NHL players did in 2004, and the players got crushed. They broke the union. Bob Goodenow got let go. That one was an absolute pummeling.
Mm-hmm.
Now, baseball, they haven't done this since 1994.
Yeah, this is the first work stoppage since then.
So a lot has changed. We're dealing with a new generation. So I don't know where their leadership starts and ends with guys now starting to miss some paychecks. So I find this fascinating moving forward.
How about the NFL players union? Meanwhile, it's just like guys that make $300,000 get cut willy nilly. Like they just have
owners
no
make $6 billion a year.
But a lot
It's the
can
worst
change.
union.
A lot can change, Sammy. As bad as you feel right now for your Jays, who knows what's going on behind the scenes? Let's hope cooler heads prevail and they find a way.
When Matthews scores 5 minutes into the game for the first goal of the Leafs tonight, I will feel a lot better.
I actually did bet that, and I bet Marner over 1.5. So put my money where my mouth is.
Our thanks to Brad May, Adam Oates. Fun show today.
Aaron Ward too.
Oh, Aaron Ward.
Yes, very
I
fun
can't
show.
remember everything.
I know, it's a lot of guests.
Thanks for watching and listening. We're right back again here tomorrow. Real Kyper and Bourne. Stay safe, everybody.
Welcome to Sports Interaction.